Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote. This is a weekly show where we introduce some of the best creators from all over the world, and we find out more about them by taking your questions. I am your host, Ryan of And I Quote channel, and our guest on this episode is someone who has got a really good reputation. Apparently, Terrence Leahy was one of his biggest fans. Please welcome writer and teacher. He does everything extraordinary. Martin Rooney's in the building. Join us all the way from Rhode Island. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing good, Ryan. And hey, for everybody, thanks for joining us. And Ryan and I just not only had pretty spirited conversation backstage, but then that intro, like now I'm jacked up. Like, yeah, I'm ready to share some stuff.
Well, we, in the words of our good friend Jimmy Bond, we aim to please. And, those clips speak to not just my personality, but also how I want to communicate to the audience and what kind of ride they're going to be in for. So it does its job well. So thanks to our good friend Case for remastering it from the original intro, which was originally put together by Josh Bauer of J Bauer Art on Instagram. He's a great guy, great artist. So feel free to follow those kind folks. They're good people out there. But if you're just joining us, don't forget to like and share this with your closest friends. If you're watching us live on the replay, hello there. If you have any questions for the guest of honor, Martin Rooney, because it's not about me, it's about him, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. More than happy to hear from you as they come in. But with that out of the way, what would you say were some of your favorite books or writers when you were younger, Martin? Any favorites?
Man, he's just diving right in. And any favorites? Absolutely. Now, hey, I will say this for everybody listening. I am a bibliophile. So I have thousands of books on my shelf, which means I'm old because it cannot go on my shelf if I have not read it. And it's almost like my trophy case, if you will, where I kind of cut my teeth, obviously when I was in school, and to date myself in the 1980s, right, where ask yourself where you were. You might be listening. You weren't even a sparkle in your parents' eye yet, but started with the classics, but really dove into Stephen King, which was interesting because it really always gave me this basis for thrillers, this basis for action, this basis for character development. I think that's where I originally cut my teeth. But as I read, I became very eclectic in my reading. I wanted to read everybody. But if I fast forward to all the way to now, some of the people that I'm really enjoying, because I'm really pushing myself now, especially with Blood Feud, the book that I did, I wanted to mimic some of my favorites. And one of those you could say is Cormac McCarthy. Another one of my favorites, Chuck Palahniuk, which, you may know him for Fight Club fame, but he has so many books that are really intriguing to me, that get me amped up. Hey, another one, I tried to really understand suspense and drama. Patricia Highsmith and the Talented Mr. Ripley and her series there. And another guy that I really enjoy too, and I'm trying to give you a different, everybody can say, oh, I read Michael Crichton, which I did, and I enjoy it because I'm a techno guy. Or everybody could say I love Baldacci, who I got to meet, and it's great. Or Grisham. I already gave you King. But then, what was I going to say? One that I'm really been diving into too is Bret Easton Ellis. Originally, of course, American Psycho got me into it, but then Less Than Zero, Glamorama, and so what I do is I kind of dive into a vertical of the authors and try to understand their craft and what they do when they go through it, and then take the things that I really love about it and try to become that. And hey, this new book, Blood Feud, I think I did that. Like, hey, you'll feel a little Stephen King in there. You'll feel a little Crichton in there. But man, I tried to give it an edge and not ride the middle like a Chuck Palahniuk or a Bret Easton Ellis, where you're kind of like never the same after you read it. And I think I achieved that. But hopefully that answers the question without going too long.
No, I got you. So in other words, all I'm saying is that life finds a way.
Yep.
Had to throw a Goldblumism in there because we all grew up watching that movie. If you haven't seen it, then you're missing out. So check it out when you get a chance. Newman's in it. Wayne Knight's in it. So no problem. Yeah, exactly. No problem with that, right? Which reminds me, what are some of your favorite movies, past or present? Whether it's something from the '80s or some of today. Do you like all 6,000 Jurassic World movies or just the first one?
Yeah, I'm not a big Jurassic Park fan.
Really?
Meaning I like the original, but it's like I haven't kept up or really run the gamut with it.
That's
But
fair.
I did really enjoy the original book. I'm
Mhm.
definitely an 80s maniac. Like that's where I grew up when I grew up. So hey, I was raised on, of course, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Van Damme, but I also really loved all of I think it's John Burns movies, the Ferris Bueller's, the 16 Candles. But if I were to say though, and it's pretty interesting, if I was to say favorite movie of all time, it's Jaws. And
Wow.
and this being the 50-year anniversary and all the things that they're doing about it. And I don't know if you watched, Ryan, the 2-hour documentary that National Geographic.
I did. Yeah. The Jaws at 50 with Spielberg. Yeah.
It was so awesome. It was almost like I'm watching it again, but then to hear all the stories and everything that happened behind it, and to realize, you're talking about creators, to realize Spielberg is 26 years old. And he's using all the people from the town. They only have 5 actors in the movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
So
that is my all-timer. If it's on, I'm watching it. That's how I describe it. My favorite movies, if it's on, I don't care what part it's on or where it is, and I have to stop and watch it, then I'm watching it. And but I will say this, what's gotten harder for me when people ask me stuff like that, like favorite book, favorite author, favorite movie, man, as soon as you get into I can't even imagine. I've read thousands of books. I can't even imagine how many thousands of movies I've watched. But without a doubt, I like my genre is, action genre, sci-fi, stuff like that is more, if I'm on a plane, that's where I go first to see what I got.
That's fair. It's understandable. There's only so many movies we can see in a lifetime, folks. We can't see all of them. I'm sorry. Just a fact of life. Well, fun fact. I don't know if you knew this or not. Maybe you heard this in the news recently, but Jaws is going to be re-released in theaters on August the 29th.
Yep.
So.
And not only have I heard, my cousins are all going, man, I have to show you the pictures. We just had on the coast, my cousin, it was his 60th.
Really?
Huge birthday. So we all only brought Jaws gifts. So I have this great photo. I'm in the mayor's jacket.
Oh my gosh.
We acted out. Watch, I'll even pull this up.
Are you serious?
So we acted out scenes of the movie, which was so much fun for all of us. So I'll try to,
wow.
I'll try to do one so you see that we were really doing this stuff.
That's beautiful, because amity, as you know, means friendship.
Right, means
beautiful day. The beaches are open and everyone's having a good time.
Well, watch, and here, I'll give you this one. Watch. Let's see if it.
August. We gotta close the beaches now. You're the mayor of Shark City. These people think you want them in the water.
So it wasn't loud enough because we were having a big party, but we're acting out all the mayor scenes, and
that's great
for everybody on that one. That was the one where he's like, August, you're the mayor of Shark City. These people, you want the beaches open.
Yeah.
And
tomorrow's gonna be the 4th of July, and we will be open for business. This is gonna be one of the best summers we've ever had. Exactly. Yeah.
But, yeah, you're gonna get me into all movie quotes now. I'm seeing your.
Well, hey, they don't call me Ryan the Quote for nothing on this broadcast, Martin. I don't know if you've noticed this before, but if you watch that intro and all those images that were flashing before you, dude, I can quote the episodes those came from, the movies they came from. Like I got the whole scripts tattooed on my brain, brother.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun fact for those of you who are wondering, how does he know so much? Well, it's because if I watch something once or twice, the whole script goes right up here.
Well, and hey, that I think all of us, if you said like, hey, favorite movies, you can start quoting them
probably,
left and right. And I think that's an easy way. Yeah, maybe if somebody's if you're listening right now and you have a hard time deciding what are some of your favorites, well, what are the ones that if you put it on, you knew every line in it? That would probably be it.
That's a great question to ask our audience. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, dive into the comments down below, because one thing's for sure, Martin, you're going to need a bigger boat. So exactly. See, I had to say it. But yeah, we did a Jaws 50th anniversary watch along on Anti-Quote channel a couple weeks ago. We had, I think it was me and a few of our friends, and it was a lot of fun. So don't worry, I'll send you the links. You can go back and watch it. It was a lot of fun.
Well, hey, for everybody listening though, too, bringing it always back to creative and books, but Jaws was a book, and it was by a guy named Peter Benchley, who's actually in the movie
as the newscaster.
The newscaster in there. But he also, Benchley also wrote it's the one with the giant squid which
Oh.
now I'm losing my mind. My dad has it, but but what I'm getting at is, guys, and Benchley was inspired because there was an original story of a shark that kind of terrorized the New Jersey coast and up some
that's right.
rivers.
That was
And,
in the documentary. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. So, but this is all true stuff that really happened. So again, it all stemmed originally from a book, which is really, really cool. And that guy, never knowing how that would have changed his life, it became his legacy.
Yeah. In the words of Ray Lewis, leave your legacy. Sorry, some of us are here in Maryland, so it's kind of a Marylander thing.
Yeah.
But still, I digress. Don't forget, this is And I Quote with the incredible guest of honor, Martin Rooney. Don't forget to like and share. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. So, when did you decide to become a writer?
Well, you know what's funny? I think I didn't. Yeah, what is it? I didn't choose the streets. The streets chose me.
It chose me, exactly. Yeah.
And how it all started. Hey, I was always into writing, and I do consider myself a creative. So I liked writing essays. I liked writing stuff. Me and my friends had a little comic magazine when we were a kid. We were always doing stuff, but really it was after school and after reading so much. This is a cool way to look at it. I started realizing my shelves were getting full, but I hadn't read the book I wanted to read. And then I went and wrote it. And I did that over and over. So actually Blood Feud is my first action thriller, but it's my 13th book. So I've written a number of books in the fitness space. I've written a number of books in coaching and for business culture. So if anybody's interested in that, being a better coach or parent or a leader, I've got some books on Amazon about that as well too, that have been really, really well received. But it was almost each time I never decided to do it, the publishing houses would approach me and say, hey, you're a thought leader in this space. Do you want to write a book about it? And so that is kind of my intro to writing. But Blood Feud, how that, and you might say, well, why did you now write this action thriller, right? Like I almost say it's kind of like, using concepts, I guess, like Jack Reacher meets Fight Club. But yet Michael Crichton wrote the technical background stuff for it in science. I did that. My good buddy, unfortunately, got cancer. I was going up to New York City to visit him all the time. And man, he was losing all this weight and starving this cancer out of himself. And one day he was like, dude, they got a library here. Pick me out a book. You read a lot. And I said, hey, how about instead of picking one out, I write one and you watch it develop along the way. And that was how this was born. And in a cool twist of fate, he ends up beating cancer. But then I had this book, I had this manuscript, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I wasn't known for this space. But I had a friend and he said, hey, man, this publisher, this is the type of book for him. I brought it to them and they gave it one read. They were like, we got to have it. And now this, a year later, this thing's in my hand and it's real. And so I think it's really cool that I never sat down and said I want to be a writer. I think we talked about earlier, when I introduce myself, I don't introduce myself as a writer. There's so many other things that I do and have done, but it was the thing that I always wanted to do. And I couldn't be more proud of it, to be able to play in that space where I guess about a month ago, I was at Thriller Fest in New York City. I presented on a panel, met David Baldacci, John Grisham, all these guys that are like heroes. And man, it was super cool. Actually, another movie I really like, if I was going to go up there in a list of some of my top movies from the 80s, is First Blood. And the guy that was the author who originally wrote the Rambo character, he also presented, and that was really cool to see him too. So it's kind of like, I'm hoping someday this character of mine, Lee Kane, maybe somehow even has a millionth of the effect, and it'll be really cool.
They drew First Blood, sir.
By
the way,
up with that one.
By the way, the author you're thinking of, that's David Morrell, who wrote First Blood.
Yep.
So he wrote First Blood, sir.
And I'll tell you what, for everybody listening, this guy was an academic. He's taught, has been a professor at major universities. Like when he spoke about writing,
really,
it took me to another level, which I would not have expected. Right. And it was so that was really, really cool. And to hear the origin story behind the character, because of when he wrote that was the time when all these Vietnam guys were coming back and he wanted to create this character of what was happening, which, the movie really portrays that really well. But just remember, nothing is over.
Oh man, I was gonna get to that. Jeez, you took the words right out of my mouth, son. Man, you're ruining my reputation as the quote master back
What do
here.
you mean?
No, it's
You're recognizing it. That means you're great.
well, that's true. And they also say imitation's the highest form of flattery. So I get it. It's over, Johnny. It's over. No. Nothing. You just don't turn it off. Sorry. You don't turn it off. When you're quoting movies, you just don't turn it off. You just can't. I was having a discussion with a friend of mine this morning, and we were going back and forth, and we realized how much we had in common because we hadn't talked to each other in a bit. And we talked about, I remember going to this place. I remember going to that place. I remember going to all these places when I was a kid. And then I shared with them also like, hey, I remember Circuit City. I remember, Caldor and KB Toys and TRU, like, and all this kind of jazz, Martin. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, it's almost like we were next door neighbors, but we never were because we never lived in the same physical vicinity. But it's like if we were neighbors, we would be hanging out every day.
Yeah.
So I just find that fascinating when you learn stuff like that. But when it comes to being a writer specifically, what outside of, and by the way, congratulations on your friends for beating cancer, because that is not an easy road to go up. That's an uphill battle no matter what. My hats are off to everybody who's beaten cancer over the years. Well done. But my question to you is, outside of some of the other things you've described, any other rewards you would say that come from being a writer?
Well, from my original stuff, the rewards happen all the time, and it'll be people that write you and say, hey, this is what I needed to hear, or this book really affected me, or this book made me better in some aspect of their life, because that's what some of my motivational books and some of the coaching books were designed to do. So it's incredibly rewarding. But and now I'm at an event, right now I'm at an event in Providence, Rhode Island. There's 1,000 attendees. I've already had the opportunity to present. I'll be presenting again after this show. And now people are walking up, and this isn't an author event or a thriller event, and they're walking up with Blood Feud, and they're coming up and saying, oh my God, this story is so great. And man, it's got me fired up. When is book 2? What are we going to do? And the rewards of that, like, it's just, nobody can understand how cool it is to have put essentially a piece of art out there and somebody appreciate it. Right. So I think the greatest reward is when somebody reads it and they got something from it, or they went for the ride with you. And and really a big reward too is my dad, who is one of the biggest fans of thriller novels and the genre. It was really cool to be able to put a book in his hands and for him to read it and tell me he believed it stood up with all the other stuff that he had read too. And I think that was probably one of the greatest rewards of all, to show him his kid could do something like that, and in something that he really enjoys. So yeah, those would be some of them for sure.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. On the opposite side of the fence, though, some of the biggest challenges about being a writer. What do you think?
Oh my God. Well, hey, we were talking about it offline. First off, hey, anybody wants to be a writer? Well, everybody can be a writer. You are a writer. You write texts every day. You probably send emails. Everybody's a writer. It's just deciding where you want to take it and how many levels you want to ascend. Writing, I believe, is a craft. Writing is a form of expression, or like I said, an art, and the way that you can assemble your words or put your words in order. Again, I can read Stephen King and I know it's Stephen King. And then, hey, if I read James Patterson, I know it's different. It's not Stephen King, right? Like that part of the art is the stuff that I'm really diving into to try to discover. But what I would say is the biggest challenges is that, like, man, you got to do deep work. You're going to have to invest a lot of time. And if you do have a dream of being published or a published author, well, it's easier than ever where you could self-publish. And I've done that with some of my stuff. But if you want to have a real publishing house, or you want to have an agent, I would say these are the biggest obstacles to the game, where, hey, I've never had an agent. So for everybody listening, like, never had an agent, like I said, I was always sought out, but now I'm seeing that as an obstacle. So if any agents are listening, or anybody knows any agents, hey, here's a guy that has sold 150,000 copies of his books and can't even get an agent to help out. I don't know. I guess people don't want free money, but that's a challenge. And then even if you've gotten through all of that, and then you do produce it and you do have it in your hands, what the big joke is in the industry is, well, once you've done it, then how do you sell it? How do you market it? How do you get the world to hear about it when millions of books are out there and being on Amazon, and hundreds of thousands are being produced every day. And I think that's the wall I'm crashing into now. So, hey, for everybody listening, if I've fired you up a little bit, you're going to feel my energy through this book. And I promise you're going to go for a wild ride. If you like a wild ride, just buy a seatbelt on Amazon too, maybe with it. But at the same time, that's the hardest thing, is how do you stand out, like Ryan and I were talking before, or even just get your voice heard in a sea of people. That is probably the biggest challenge that I'm experiencing now.
Mm-hmm. Point taken. Marketing is a big thing, and sometimes it can be easy, sometimes it can be difficult, especially when you're trying to beat the algorithms of social media. And the algorithms change every single second of every day. You know, look, I got 1,600 subscribers, which is great. It's a great number, but it's not like a Joe Rogan. You know, it's not like I'm rolling in the money and I got sponsors lining up outside my door here.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I thought I get $10,000 for this episode.
Sure. Yeah, your invisible check is in the mail. It's coming, guys. But no, look, would it be great if I had those? All of us here had those kind of numbers? Yeah. But at the same time, you know, if you love something that you do, it's never called work. So for me, podcasting is something I love to do. Writing is something I just started, enjoyed doing, because I got a short story published a couple of weeks ago in a Western anthology from Veritas Entertainment, which we'll talk more about it later. Because like I said, this, and I quotes about our guests, not about me. But, and then I got my copy of the book what was it, like a week or so ago? And then when you hold that in your hand, it's a completely different kind of animal.
Yeah.
It is. You felt it. We've all felt, those of you who are writers out there and you've experienced it, whether you've been published on social media, through ebook, paperback, hardcover, when you hold the book physically in your hands, it's a whole different vibe, guys. Just throwing that out there. But I get it. Obstacles come and go. But dude, with the electricity that you, bounce off everybody, Martin, you're going to kick tail and take names, brother. You know why? Because you're so money, you just don't even know it.
Well, I hope. Here's the thing. I've been hearing that for a long time. I've been in this, in the forms of industries of either entertainment or writing, speaking for so long. And I think that's what I did today. I just lit up crowds of hundreds of people and they're all on fire. And really it's pretty interesting because it's always levels, but it's like, there's one more to go. And here's a cool story. John Grisham shared. I said, how did you do it? Right? Like, how did you make it? And he shared this story. He said, hey, Time to Kill. I wrote Time to Kill. And it sold like 200 copies. And then he said, but they told me to keep writing, even though it was kind of a flop. And so I wrote The Firm and I couldn't sell it to anybody. No publishing house was interested in it at all. And then a screenplay got made that he didn't even know about. And it got sold to a movie house. And then they cast Tom Cruise. And then The Firm goes huge. And now it's all happening. And this thing that he said, which was really cool, he said, it's luck and pluck. And I love that. It was like, well, something's got to happen. Something magical, a little bit has to happen. But the pluck is putting yourself out there enough that maybe that magic will. So, hey, maybe somebody's listening that knows somebody that says, and then reads the book and says, oh my God, this should be a Netflix show or this should be something. But some of that has to happen in this world today, but you can't sit back and do nothing. Right. And, down to, hey, why will I take the time to do this podcast? Because maybe somebody's listening and somehow some of that pluck turns into some luck, right? Which could be cool.
Yeah, you ever thought about being a TED Talk guy? Because dude, you're killing it.
Well,
TED Talks to get you on the air and pay you mad money because you're killing it, man.
Well, in a weird way. So hey, for everybody listening, I am also a professional speaker. I've spoken around the world in over 35 countries. I've been in front of tens and tens of thousands of people, and I've been doing it a really long time. A TED Talk is just one speech or something, but I know they had a really big, huge audience. But it's same thing. But then, just like writing a book or anything else, it becomes so competitive to try to go do that I don't know, was never. That wasn't I guess maybe because it hasn't happened because that was never something I guess been driving to happen, right? Like whereas the book happened, but that has not. But from interesting stories, like, hey, I presented in Wembley Stadium for David Branson's company, Virgin Active, so just some really cool things I've had an opportunity to do. But for everybody listening, because that's about me. But look, it's your ability to communicate your ideas. It's your ability to crystallize them and be able to do it on a fly. Like, hey, Ryan and I, just so everybody knows, Ryan and I just met about 5 minutes before you saw us go live. And we're not only hitting it off, but I think putting out some entertaining ideas that can make people better. But see, that's a skill, right? And that's a skill I've been working on for a really long time. That probably led to my writing, that led to getting some of that happening. I just think, and here's a little philosophy of mine, Ryan, you'll like this. There are button pushers out there. Like you said about your podcast, hey, I only have this many people. There's a person that could push a button and all of a sudden now there's 20,000 or 30,000. And I think the key always is can you find who that person is, who is the button person, that button pusher that could change things for you? But then also, what is the button that I need to get pushed to move in the right direction? And that's what I'm going to start uncovering with this book, because now I'm realizing there's got to be a button pusher. Like you said, like, hey, Joe Rogan, if Joe Rogan said, hey, get this book's incredible, something's going to happen. Or The Rock was in one of the intro videos. It's like, if some kind of magic thing like that happened, boom, that's great. But who are other button pushers that could either get you the right person or make a little something happen that you always move forward? But if you did that, you have to learn not only how to do it the right way, but have something to offer as well. So it's not always just take.
In the words of Morgan Freeman, he's right, I don't know if you noticed that meme, but there's a him just pointing his finger up, and he's either saying he's right, or she's right, because people have different, iterations of it on social media. That's the beauty of memes, man. You can communicate so many different things by just a picture of a meme or a GIF. People.
Well, it's how I think it's our language, how we speak now, right? Like, it was emojis, but now I do believe it's memes. Hey, for everybody listening, you probably have an Instagram little group or friends, and you're getting hit with those all the time of your friends that match you and how you think, whether those are good memes or bad ones, but you're learning, you're definitely it is. So what we call it, Ryan, because hey, for everybody listening, I'm also the chancellor of an online university called Lionel University. We only work in the field of exercise science. And what we've been investigating a lot is how to incorporate ideas like this. And it's called micro learning. So it's almost like little micro dashes of learning is how we do things now. People are not sitting down. It's kind of interesting. I asked Ryan, how long is this podcast going to be? Because man, to get somebody to listen for 45 minutes or an hour to you, that's hard. But people like to watch something, but maybe in 5, 6, 10 seconds, they can learn something incredible, right? So attention spans are less. Focus is at a premium. Most people don't have it, but it's those little micro doses that if you do them right, you could make a difference.
That's true. And the beauty of us being here on YouTube, for those of you who wonder, we use something called YouTube Shorts, which are like 30 to 45-second clips of certain episodes of whether it's this show or other, because we do a lot of different kinds of programming on the Anti-Quote channel, Martin. We're like Baskin Robbins. We got 31 flavors for everybody. And we use YouTube Shorts to promote shows we've done in the past just to get more eyeballs on it. And they've been doing really well. The shorts have been doing very, very good to me. So it's well, I got no problems with it. It helps.
Well, not just helps, but that is you're communicating with your audience where, hey, the days of 2 and 3 hour, podcasts or presentations, and that's all you get. Like, guys, that people do not have that span. We are a scrolling society. We're flipping through. If something doesn't catch our attention in a second, for instance, on my Instagram. So if anybody's listening, my Instagram, if you want to see some of my adventures, I am the Martin Rooney on Instagram. And, man, it's crazy because I was at one point, I remember doing our podcast. Then I did this podcast called Into the Roar, which was half hour of power. Then I started to, when you look at the stats and how long they're listening, then I was doing YouTube videos, but they were like 5 minutes. Then you're down to 1 minute. Then now I'm seeing on Instagram, when I go on my insights, you might put up a 30-second clip or a minute clip, but like everybody's gone in 5 or 6 seconds. So I don't know what the message is there or not, but what I would say is you better be able to get something across really good in 5 or 6 seconds or they're gone.
He makes a good point, but they call me the quote, so I know how to sell. To be perfect, not to toot my own horn here, Martin, but I know a thing or two because I've done a thing or two. But see, I know what I'm doing. I mean, look, if you go back and watch some of our earliest episodes of Anti-Quote, it was like I had an idea of what I was doing, but I was developing the craft. I was developing myself as a interviewer, as a podcaster, because my friends and I from high school, we did a podcast way back when, before podcasting was even a thing. And we cut our teeth on that. And then it lasted not for very, very long. And then we went away and we went our separate ways. We're still friends. We just don't see each other as much as we used to, unfortunately. But years later, I went to college. I don't know what that's called. But anyway, I go to college and these people are saying, hey, we're putting together a YouTube channel. We're looking for people to join up. And I joined up. And at the time, we were calling ourselves Nerd Culture. And I was the interviewer. I interviewed different people. And by the way, Martin, we started during lockdown. So I had to reach out to all these Facebook groups and social media pages to get people to be on my show. And sure enough, it worked because I'm a hell of a salesman. And I'm just that, in the words of Triple H, I am that damn good, So sorry, that's another pro wrestler reference out there. But anyway, I was cutting my teeth, and I got a lot of great interviews out of it. And we're now, I don't know if you heard the news or not, but we're now past 250 episodes of this program.
There we go.
In 5 years, brother.
A testament to things going. And not only that, but like you said, each one of them is an opportunity to sharpen your saw. Each one of them is an opportunity to, continue to crystallize. So for instance, hey, I gave this talk today and then did this big group thing with this group. And I've done thousands of them over the years. And even at that one, I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be more prepared. I'm figuring it out. And there's always another great lesson that exists. There's always, I describe it as you can peel the onion away and there's another layer and you're like, oh my God, how did I never know about this layer? And, but it only happens if you continue to drive like that and you know where you're going. So, hey, hats off to the 250 episodes, but here's to the next 250 and what you're going to become as a result of it.
Roads where we're going, we don't need roads. Actually, there's an 80s quote for you.
That's in my, so remember, my name is Martin Rooney. Marty is the lead character in Back to the Future. And I am, they go back 30 years.
Oh yeah.
What you would realize is now if you went back 30 years, you're going back to 1995. So what I do for my talk is I say, imagine if I went back to if Marty goes back to 1995, what would I see then? And then about what I'm going to speak about today. And then what would I see if I could only be that guy again and I came back right to here, right? What would I see if I didn't know about the future? And I think it's going to be very intriguing for everybody to see, oh my God. So number one, you see how far we have come, but also, man, maybe some of the stuff in particular with AI and what's happening, maybe that some of it's not the best stuff, because man, at this event, that's all everybody is talking about. And hey, for some good quotes or movie stuff, hey, Terminator, how'd that turn out?
Matrix. Skynet.
Yeah, how'd that turn out? Hey, War Games, how'd that turn out? Hey, 2001 Space Odyssey. It's almost all these ones are jumping in my head, and I'm like, wait a minute, don't we already know how this story ends, guys? Maybe we shouldn't be unleashing this the way we are or figure out how to control it. But unfortunately, it has rolled out, and even the inventors of it are scared of it, which makes me a little scared of it.
Yeah, Skynet's taken over. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
Yeah.
Anyway, Terrence Leahy's in the chat. He says, "What's up, guys? What's up, Terrence?"
Here would be the challenge. See, he gets away with it because he can put his picture up. I wonder if he's really wearing a suit right now.
He is. He does.
So does even to jump into a chat, Terrence, maybe you can answer that. Are you wearing do you have the suit on or not?
That's a good question. Cause I asked him yesterday, Terrence and I did a recording yesterday. Cause he had me on as a guest for his Suit Up the podcast. I don't want to discuss the subject matter cause I don't want to give it away as a spoiler. It's going to drop somewhere in September, Martin. So stay tuned. I'll send you the link.
So you don't want to give anything away, but it's the greatest shattering information of all.
It might be. But Terrence and I were talking. I said, Terrence, do you ever just wear a t-shirt and jeans any day? Like, honestly, what is it with you in these suits? But he does have a question for you, though. He says, question for Martin. Best of the sequel Terminator films after T2. After T2, what is the best sequel that we got within the franchise?
You know what's funny? I'm trying to think. Because having watched the ones recently, like I like sadly enough, I like things to stay closer to the original story. And the one, that's why it's funny. You said after T2, where I would say T2 is still my favorite of the whole thing. I'll never forget being in the audience, guys. I'll say this, I almost had an anxiety attack. Like, that's what I loved how he created it, that I was like, there's no way he can defeat this thing, this liquid metal machine, like
P1000 advanced prototype.
I was like, there's no way it can't be done. And meaning in a good way, it created that, for me as I went through that. Terrence, if you're listening, I just read this book that did it again to me. It was I was talking earlier Patricia Highsmith's The Talented Mr. Ripley, I almost got that same effect. Like she mastered this, like you're just like stressed out, putting yourself in this character's position. And like, how is this going to go? Is this guy going to get away with this? But yeah, so I would say I didn't like any of them at that a ton in the sequels, but the second Terminator movie was that, yeah, Judgment Day was my favorite.
I understand. And by the way, he says I'm in my gym suit up.
Yeah.
So he's in my gym suit up mode right now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, we'll take that.
And then he says, "Oh, great read, the book that you just mentioned."
Oh yeah, like, and not only that, but she wrote that in the 50s.
Really?
And here's what's really cool about it. I was just, now I'm talking to both of you. I was just in Europe, and we did Paris, then we did Switzerland, then we did Italy. And the book essentially takes place in all the same places that I was in when I was reading it. So it was super cool because it was just referring to all the different cities, from Paris to Cortina to Venice, all the places that we were. She must have gone there when she wrote this thing and put it all together. But yeah, for anybody that has never checked that out, like, man, I don't know why it took me so long to ever hear about it. I know there was the movie. I actually never saw the movie, and which I'm glad, because I think that would have spoiled it. So here would be a good thing, Ryan. I always prefer the book before the movie. I will never read a book after I saw the movie. Usually, I don't want to do that. But I did that recently and was totally confused, which I think our suit up star is going to like this one. So Ryan, you know what book I just finished that I also had never read?
Which one?
So here's going to be a quiz for you.
Yeah.
Because it sparked a movie, but they didn't have the same name. So it is do androids dream of electric sheep?
Electric Sheep. Yeah. Was that Blade Runner?
Yeah. So he gets it right.
Blade Runner.
Which one of my favorites. But
Harrison Ford, peak 80s. Yeah.
Oh, man. But the book is like, there's not much similarity at all. Besides the fact of a guy hunting down androids, there is
nothing.
Now the book is so here's what's weird. Usually I enjoy the book more than the movie.
9 times out of 10, that's what audiences have told me, that the book is always better than the movie.
Yeah, whereas the movie is a million times better than the book.
Depends.
And, but whereas, and I would probably say Jaws, the movie though, is probably better.
Yeah, everyone has said the book is, sorry to say this, the book is trash. Jaws is a great movie, but don't read the book. And they even said this to me. They said, Ryan, don't even bother reading the book, because the book is trash.
In the book, Brody has an affair, or
yeah, he does. He has an affair.
Has an affair with Brody.
No, his wife. His wife has an affair, or whatever it is. Yeah,
with Hooper. Like, could you imagine that one?
Yeah,
like pulling that off. That would have been.
So I hear you're into sharks. I'm sorry that I haven't heard it quite put that way, but yes. I was fishing off one time off of Cape Cod.
Yeah, that's what led them, and then they go into the back room together.
Oh, okay, and they go fishing? No, I'm sorry, that's the appropriate term, because this is a PG-rated show, guys. But no, I get it. I completely understand. Yeah, that's crazy though that we learn these things. Terrence says Patricia Highsmith remains one of the most suspenseful writers of all time.
Yeah, it was. It's just what I'm going to unpack, Terrence, and I got to figure it out.
Yeah,
I got to unpack how she did it, because, like I said, I hadn't had such a visceral response to a book. I think I was close to the material, meaning the area that I was in, and just the suspense. Like, again, not to spoil it for anybody, this guy is doing some dastardly things, but he just keeps getting away with it. But it's like, you think he's caught, or you think he's trapped, or you think it's over, and it's just crazy the way she could keep layering it. Where I'll tell you that, same deal. Like, so my book, Blood Feud, the guy is not a hero. He is an anti-hero. And I love that. It's an origin story, which so was the same thing, Most Talented Mr. Ripley. But it was like something in the way the way it keeps just stacking up, that what that did for me, I got to understand that better so I could try to create that in future stuff I write.
Yeah, fair enough. Terrence says there's a Quint book, which he saw advertised recently, that's an authorized prequel to the original Jaws movie, he thinks.
I have not seen that, but what I did see, which I'm really mad I missed, Jaws for this year. I don't know if you know, but Quint was played by Robert Shaw.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Shaw had a son who looks like him, and they did, for the last year, they did a play in London, and it's his son as Quint, and they're doing some play. I don't even know what the play was about or how it did, but it did like incredible. And when I finally heard about it, and I'm a big fan of this thing, when I heard about it, it's like the show was already over. where I'll tell you what, I would have tried to maybe pull off getting to London and going to see that thing in the 50th year and all that stuff. And I'm sure maybe they'll reprise it because, he probably got tired of doing it, but I bet it's probably going to be so popular, they're going to have to do more with it.
Yeah, that's fair. And then he goes on to say Robert Shaw also read Grant and From Russia with Love, the James Bond movie with Sean Connery. Yeah, that's how I knew who Robert Shaw was. Before I even saw Jaws, I knew who he was because I watched From Russia with Love years before I ever saw Jaws. So there you go. Fun fact. Because, yeah, and this kind of goes without saying, but Terrence and I are big Bond fans. So
yeah, well, no,
we know a thing or two about Bond because we've seen a lot of them
up all the time.
Yeah, we dropped JB. And speaking of which, Terrence, if you're available, I think it's in November or December, we're going to be celebrating GoldenEye's 30th anniversary because it came out in 95. So get ready, guys. GoldenEye turns the big 3-0, and we're going to dress up in style and celebrate one of the greatest Bond films of all time.
Well, how about then for both of you guys then, I'll throw a question out there, like who's your favorite Bond then? Here's the Terminator one. Like, yeah,
great question.
You just got to say, like, who is it?
This is the thing. This is the thing, Martin. This goes for Terrence, because Terrence and I have talked about this a little bit off air, right? So there's a difference between who's the favorite Bond, but also who's the best Bond, right? I consider those two very different lists. Okay,
well, give me both.
Okay, so my favorite is Pierce because he was the first Bond film I ever saw in the theater was GoldenEye. Martin, I'm dating myself. I'm very old, but the first Bond film I ever saw was GoldenEye, so that's always gonna have a special place in my heart. The girl, the mission. Killer. It means nothing to me. Pierce, you're the man. I love you, brother. If I ever see Pierce walking down the street, I cannot wait to pick his brain about that stuff. But to me, the best Bond, even though I love Pierce is my favorite because GoldenEye is my favorite Bond film of all time. The best Bond movie is Casino Royale with Daniel Craig, but the best Bond overall, as far as actors go, Martin, is what Terrence just said in the chat, and that is Timothy Dalton. Because Timothy Dalton was the closest to the original character that you're ever going to get, because Timothy said this in interviews. He's like, I want to take it back to its roots. I want to take this back to what Ian Fleming envisioned when the movies are first being, made and taking the books and adapting them. And he read the books on set. He read the books off set. Like, he made sure that Timothy Dalton was James Bond when he shot both The Living Daylights and then License to Kill. I'm not going to sing that song because it has too high of a pitch, but sorry. But but yeah, no, Timothy Dalton's the best. He's underrated too. He doesn't get enough love, brother.
Well, and to be honest, that would surprise my answer. My favorite role, if I'm saying this right, so he was in Flash Gordon, right? He was the Baron.
I believe he wasn't he? Terrence?
Yeah, that's he was. My favorite. Yeah, so Dalton as the Baron was
Baron.
Awesome. Because man, that's another one. Like, if I threw out there, man, so many quotes from that.
Is there? Flash, I love you, but we only have 24 hours to save the Earth. Like, who says that? Who says that? It's so OTT, but that's the point, right? To be over the top.
Well, and how about Queen doing the entire soundtrack?
Well, not only did the Queen do the soundtrack to Flash Gordon, but they did the soundtrack to Highlander, because, Martin, I don't know if you knew this or not, but there can be only one.
Well, and hey, Who Wants to Live Forever? Actually, I always say, if you listen to that song, that may be the one that gives me the most goosebumps of all Queen song. When people say, hey, what Queen song is your favorite? Because they've got so many. That one, when you listen to it, is pretty epic and comes, from that movie, which is pretty neat.
That's a fair point. Terrence has another follow-up question. He says,
all right,
were any of the locations you recently visited, are they going to show up within the next Blood Feud novel?
Well, it not in 2. So the second book still happens in the United States, but book 3 is going to Europe. So that was a little recon for that, for sure. But, Terrence, like, I've been in Europe a lot of times, but using all the experiences and of the places that I've been, without a doubt. Now, there's that character that it starts to get referred to at the end of Blood Feud, the Russian. That character gets developed in the second one, and I take people to the places that I was when I was there. So without a doubt, a great line, right, Ryan? Or a great quote, not from a movie, but a writer can only write what he or she knows. And that's what, it's writing from different experiences, different things that just come out. And, so without a doubt, it's going to Europe in 3 because they're going to take it to them over there.
That sounds interesting. Boy, you're just, in the words of our good friend Leo, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention. And once again, I hope we have your attention who are watching or listening to this episode of And I Quote with Martin Rooney, the guest of honor, probably one of the best people we've ever had on set. I know I'm giving him too much credit, but but let us know if you have any thoughts about him in the comments down below. If you're watching us live on the replay, hello there. Here's a funny story for you. So when I was in school, this was college, right? They had this film club on campus. So we would meet up every couple of weeks. We would watch a movie in one of the lecture halls. They would show it on this big, projector screen. And one of the movies they showed one night was a movie I had never seen before because I saw its respective sequel before I saw the original installment. So I saw the sequel growing up, right? And I said to myself, this film is really good, but it has the 2 in it. What happened to the first one? Because I never saw it. And
they called it 2 right away.
Yeah, they called it so-and-so. So we had this showing one night, right, on my college campus. It was great. It was a great time. And that movie turned out to be not only one of the best film-going experiences of my life, but it also turned out to be a movie that ended up on my top 10 list of all time.
Hot Shots Part 2?
No, it's not that one. It's not that one. It's this. It's this.
Let me see.
So I saw the Terminator, the very first one, on my college campus on a big, like a 50-foot screen, and I lost my mind. I went to a mom and pop store, bought it on Blu-ray the next day. It was on sale for $5, by the way, Martin. And now it's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And I've seen it countless times. Yeah. I love it so much. I have it on Blu-ray and DVD. So I can go back and watch it on any format.
But you saw 2 first?
Yeah, I did. I saw Terminator 2 Judgment Day before I saw The Terminator.
Yeah.
And it's funny, too, because not only did I see this before the, what do you call it, T2, but I also saw Last Crusade before I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom.
Wow. Well, I'm old enough that a great story on that. And that, hey, also some of my favorite movies of all time, the whole
80s.
Yeah, the whole series. Yeah. I was traveling with my family. We're going somewhere to the shore or something. It was pouring rain. And we said, let's go to a movie. And we went to a movie, and it was Raiders of the Lost Ark in the theater. So in the theaters, I was 10 years old, to date myself. And it was just incredible on the screen. It was just game changer. But again, hey, that appreciation for Spielberg, just like how I had said before, a writer, like Terrence was saying, hey, Highsmith, she has this suspense, or maybe King, it's the way he develops his characters, or the way you can actually hear them speaking in the dialect of wherever they are. It's like Spielberg, dude, that dude's at another level, man. Just when you watch Jaws, think about it. It's still the greatest shark movie, and they've had 50 years to make a better shark movie, but then Raiders of the Lost Ark or Schindler's List, or like you just go, again, E.T., or the list is so absurd, but it's because there's something he does that there's an art to it, right? There's these levels to this thing. And obviously Cameron has that too with Terminator and a lot of his other movies too.
Aliens.
So, yeah, come on.
Aliens.
There's just a feel or a vibe you get. Hey, another one, a favorite guy of mine is John Carpenter too.
Oh, Carpenter, yeah.
And think about it. When you're watching a Carpenter movie, there's just something, the way he would do things with the lighting.
Oh, yeah.
Christine with Stephen King's book to The Thing, or
which is one of my favorite horror movies of all time is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah, or They Live, right? Then or Escape from New York. All these, but yet I know it's his film because there's just something. It's the way the light is, the way they shot it, the film. I don't know. There's not some stuff like that today that I wish maybe there was more of it. But again, notice all the things we're talking about. They do come full circle because there were these people that were doing something so great. Everybody knows it.
That's a valid point. That's a valid point. And to keep it on the bit of a track here of the writing circuit, any other fond memories from being at book festivals or book signings when you're meeting your millions of adoring followers? Any other moments for you that stand out, whether you're there as a vendor or there as an attendee? Anything stand out? Yeah, well, so many different things. I mean, obviously, and I have done a lot of book signings over the years. And when somebody shows up and they have read it and they sit down and here's what I would say, a little advice I give if you are an aspiring author, and I did it today. People bring up the book. Hey, if somebody says to me, will you sign the book? I always say this. Absolutely. I said, that book took me years to write. I will take a few seconds to sign this book for you, without a doubt. So always showing gratitude. And here's the thing I did today, because I said, what's your name? And the guy said his name, and it's how do you spell that?
because I'll say that from a book signing. I mean, somebody will tell me a name and then I wrote it and I spelled it wrong. Like, that's the worst. You just ruined a book, right? So I always get the name, make sure I get that so it's personalized. And then I do try to have a really personalized message, whether it's tell me something about yourself and then I equate it to that. But to make things as unique as possible and as personal as possible, that's what I always tried to do with those. And now probably there's probably thousands of books out there that I've done that with, that if I added up the time now, those little seconds that I did it, it'd probably be hours and hours of my life doing it. But it was always so worth it. Because if somebody takes the time to check out your stuff, man, always make sure you never forget to spend some time on them to help them out.
Good point. Good point.
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on! Ah! Yes! Yes!
Now I hope that's something people have to try to earn every show, and like we finally got it.
No, yeah, no, I play it almost every show. You're right. No, you earned it the moment you walked through our studio door. We were sitting backstage, we were chatting it up, having some drinks, having some donuts, whatever it was, and Martin and I were just having a great 5-minute comment, whatever it was like 5-10 minutes before we went on the show, right? And you can just tell when you're meeting someone for the first time, you start talking to them, you get to break the ice a little bit, right? You get to know them a little bit, and you find something you have in common, which is great, by the way. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It makes it that much easier just to talk to them and get along with them to a certain extent. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've met so many. I'll be honest with you. Most of the people I've had on this show have been writers. And you know why? Because they're the most fascinating and most creative people I've ever met in my life. Period. End of story. Whether they're writing fiction or nonfiction, Martin, it doesn't matter. They're the most creative people in the business, no matter what. Terrence being one of them, even though I'm very jealous and I hate the fact that he wears ridiculously good-looking suits and I can never top him. So, Terrence, I know you're listening.
What about the Indiana Jones outfit? Like that.
Well, here's the thing.
That got me.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if I told you this. I don't know if you've heard the news. Well, I don't know if you knew this about me or not. But if you go on my Instagram, I go to conventions a lot. I go to comic book conventions because I'm a nerd and I've been that way for years. Yeah. I've dressed as Indiana Jones. And not only that, the first time I walked into a convention hall and I was dressed as Indiana Jones, someone was calling me from across the way, and it was Ki-Hai Kwan, who played Short Round in Temple of Doom.
Get out.
And he said, Dr. Jones.
No.
And he called me. He said, get over here. And I walk over to his table, and he's like, and I said, Key, I don't know if you knew this or not, but this is my first time wearing this. He's like, you look great. You look like Dr. Jones. You look so good. So he was one of the nicest guys.
Did he tell you to hold on to your potatoes?
Hold on to your potatoes. He didn't exactly. And here's the funny thing about Ki-Hai Kwan. So I did not see Temple of Doom when I first met Ki-Hai Kwan.
Oh, no.
I watched it way later because I'll be honest, like I said, I saw everything out of order. I saw Last Crusade, then I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then I saw Temple of Doom the first time around, and I didn't like it very much, to be honest with you. AKA Willie Scott, you ruined the movie. But I went back and I rewatched it because I wanted to give it another shot, right? And I realized, you know what, this film isn't as bad as people make it out to be, because the last 45 minutes, Martin, is nothing but pure action roller coaster. You know, Indiana Jones is under that spell, and then he
scene is epic.
Yeah.
And no, classic. Hey, I'll tell you this though, even Dial of Destiny, I really enjoyed it. I love the bringing it all back. I don't know if it met with much critical acclaim, but I love closure on stuff. I do love, and it showed where he was, and he was still able to do it. So I don't know. I went for that ride and enjoyed it too. So I'm just such a big fan of that series and that character that he'd have to really mess it up for me to hate it. I think
that, which I understand, but Ki-Hai Kwan gave me a seal of approval as Indiana Jones as a cosplayer. I've cosplayed as Indiana Jones. I've cosplayed as Marty McFly in the 1985 with the puffy red vest.
Yeah.
I think you mean that life preserver, Coast Guard. Here's that boy here with your car out there. He's all right, thank God. What are you doing in the middle of the street, a kid your age? Oh, he's in one of his moods. Sam, you quit fiddling with that thing and come in here to dinner, dude. Oh God, I cannot tell you how many times I've watched that. Over and over and over and over.
You just did.
I did. But the funny thing is, and this is something that is going to shock some people. So the little girl that's sitting at the dinner table who's eating her meal, who's like, that's Sally. So Sally is Maya Bruton, who later went on to become known as Sarah in the 80s cult classic Adventures in Babysitting with Elizabeth Shue. And I'm like, dude, she had no lines in Back to the Future, and 2 years later, she's in one of the best 80s movies of all time.
Well, and look at that resume. Just those two would be enough.
Back to the Future and Adventures in Baby. Which, by the way, Elizabeth Shue in 1987. Whoo! I mean, but then again, she looked great as Allie.
Elizabeth Shue now. What are you talking about?
No. She still looks drop dead gorgeous, Martin. I'm not going to sugarcoat
Did
it.
you see her in the Cobra Kai? Like when she came out?
Dude. When she showed up with, still looking that mighty fine in those 2 episodes, I was like, damn, girl, got those beauty genes that just don't seem to quit. Because she looked great as Allie in 1984's Karate Kid. And I didn't see Karate Kid when I was younger. I didn't see it until I was like a late teen, early 20s, Martin, to be perfectly honest with you. Because my brothers, I have 2 older brothers, so they grew up watching all these different properties. Yeah. And they're like, Ryan, you got to see Karate Kid. And I said, why? Because Cobra Kai is on right now, and it's the best show ever. I'm like, what's Cobra Kai? Just watch the movie. And I watched the movie, and I was like, Cobra Kai! Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. You got a problem with that? Just, oh my God, dude, sweep the leg. Come on, man.
Super quotable.
I know, it's sweep the leg. You have a problem with that? No, sensei, no mercy. Such badassery. You know what I'm saying? It's just badass, brother. But yeah, no, I Karate Kid, very, very good to me. Cobra Kai, very, very good to me. So,
Well, and hey, if you notice, we've taken a real, kind of tour of the 80s. And I still do believe like the music, again, maybe it's something, because if I probably asked my dad, he would say, oh, the music in the 50s was the best. I don't think he could say the music, the movies of the 50s was the best. But it's almost like I could make, I think, a really strong argument for 80s. Both the music and the movies, where they're so iconic, where
they're top tier.
Yeah. And it's my kids still listen to the music and they enjoy it now. And the movies are all ones that, I used to do every summer, we would do 80s marathons with my kids and we would watch them all. I'd want to watch all the movies that I watched, and they still hit just as good. Now, I will say this, that the 80s, they do have, I don't know what it was about back then that you'd have, just this, the occasional nudity that probably wasn't necessary. And
in a PG-rated film, yeah.
Yeah, and then some topics that probably are a little racier now.
Sensitive, yeah.
Like one of my favorite movies, I don't know if you've ever seen with Matthew Modine, Vision Quest. And
yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
And just this really cool high school wrestling movie. And, there's just some stuff that happens. Like, as I was watching, I was like, okay, we're going to skip this part now. And, okay, now we'll jump here. I forgot that happened, where I definitely see, they call us the Gen Xers. I definitely see sometimes we are the way we are because the movies we watched.
Yeah, and it's funny because Laura Florentino's in that movie, and I didn't know I knew her best from Men in Black as the medical examiner.
Well, that's so much later, right?
Which is like 10, 15 years after that movie had come out, which is crazy, right?
Well, what's crazier, though, is the final scene, one of her final scenes when she is now giving this motivational speech to him. It took me, I used to get so jacked up and so fired up, and it was like, this was like just fuel. And now I'm like, wait a minute. She's a grown lady in the boys' locker room at a high school. Number one, how'd she get in there? Number two, like no one else is in there. Like what just happened? Like, how did they decide this was a good idea to have, this is where this talk is going to happen?
How is this legal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't there a movie that came out years before that was called Legal Eagles? I don't know. Yeah. Something came out like that. It was, I think it was a Robert Redford movie. But yeah, no, they got away with a lot of crazy stuff. We'll just put it that way. In the 1980s, even the John Hughes movies got away with some stuff.
So many things.
Yeah, so many things. And Breakfast Club is my favorite John Hughes movie. So there you go. There's another fun fact about me.
And one of my kids' favorites. So it's still so relevant.
Resonates.
To the point, I saw a meme the other day and it showed, all 5 of the characters. And then it said what music they would have been listening to if it was what was on their phone. And it was so nailed it, where it's still that all those stereotypes still kind of exists today from the, it maybe has a different feel, but every kid understands it. Dude, that dude was on another level, the way he would mix cinematography, what was relevant at the time with that generation, but also the music. Like
John Hughes, man.
Stuff, yeah.
He knew his shiznit. Even, he didn't do this movie, but the boombox scene and Say Anything with John Cusack and Eye on the Sky.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Gabriel, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
But that's what I mean. It was, do you see now, imagine there's no music, or imagine, hey, again, if some of these soundtracks of these songs, I think the movie, but it would, because of what it did, like look at Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? Like, so it's, pretty cool. But he also did Home Alone. And, if anybody looks him up, look up John Burns and like his, filmography, and you're going to be like, whoa, this dude did all that. And then the crazy part is, and then I think he passed away like very young, I think at like 50 or something, but he had done all of that before it, which is incredible.
Yeah, he's got a big legacy that's going to live on for many, many years. And the cast and crews of those movies are keeping his legacy alive. The Breakfast Club cast is always doing reunions at conventions and things. I've actually met Anthony Michael Hall. He signed my Breakfast Club Blu-ray, Criterion Blu-ray, by the way. And it's Criterion, guys. It's Criterion. Criterion's one of the more elite studios that re-releases classic films on physical media. If you don't know what that is, Martin, I encourage you to check out Criterion. It's very, very good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just right, Terrence, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know a thing or two. You got like 50 billion books or whatever else is behind you in that studio of yours. Good God, man. Jeez. Too many books, Terrence. You're killing me.
He can't show it right now though, because he's got his.
He can't. He's in the gym. Yeah, he's working out, doing his lifting X amount of weights there. Sorry, that's what I was going to say. Jeez. Well, I got to say, Martin, we've covered an awful lot of ground here in a very short period of time. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to one of the greatest people in the history of the planet. Martin, yeah, that's right. We're gonna keep patting his ego.
Yeah, wow. Thanks for setting the bar so low.
We're gonna set the bar so low that no one's gonna get past it. No, I'm just kidding. Terrence says I've got Godzilla in Criterion. There you go. See, he knows what I mean by Criterion. He's got the Godzilla set.
No, he's got the Batman, the old replica Batman. Batmobile I just saw or something.
Really?
Is that true, Terrence? If he writes that in, I just saw. I want to say I just saw that. It's got to be him.
Well done, Terrence.
I think that.
Let me ask you this: is it the '60s Batmobile or the '89?
Yeah, it's the '60s.
Oh,
is what 60s. I want to say I saw that, or I'm maybe dreaming something. Hopefully, Terrence, say yes.
Terrence, I hope for your sake it's the 80. He says, he says 1966 Batmobile Lego set. It's a Lego set. There it is.
I don't know how I either saw
Lego
set or what, but and I was like, oh man, guy has everything.
He does. Terrence, do yourself a favor. Get the 89 Batmobile because # that's the real Batmobile, not the 66 one. The 66 one is fine for what it did for its time, but the 89 Batmobile is by far and away the greatest Batmobile in the history of Batmobiles. I'm sorry. But I mean, come on, Martin, help me out here. Danny Elfman's score.
I remember
him and Vicky Vale riding shotgun in the middle of the night with Danny Elfman playing in the background. You can't tell me you didn't get Batmobile vibes.
What I'm saying is how old I was. Remember my original, you know how you talk about when you got exposed to somebody. True. You know, just like you like Pierce Brosnan. And
I was 5 or 6 when I saw Batman, and I saw it 3-4 years after it had come out.
I was old enough that the show was still running with the 66 car, and
you don't look a day over 30. I don't know where you're coming from.
I got a kid approaching that, so yeah, that'll put that in perspective.
Oh boy, yeah, Batman is 89 is a classic. I mean, hubba hubba hubba, money money money. Who do you trust? Me? I'm giving away free money, Martin. And where is the Batman? He's at home, washing his tights. Anyway, Terrence, get the 89 Batmobile. Otherwise, you and I can't be friends anymore. But I want to say thank you to Martin Rooney for being our guest on this week's episode of it.
Yeah.
Quote. Martin, if someone wants to know more about you, purchase copies of your books, or maybe even hire you for a TED Talk at their house or school, their front yard, somewhere in the gymnasium somewhere, where can they follow you on social media, brother?
So I think, like I said before, on Instagram, I am the Martin Rooney. That's a great place to see what I'm doing. You'll see a lot of this stuff come to life that we're talking about, as well as, hey, I answer people back. So if you write me there, that'd be a great place. And hey, all my books, I've got a number of different books. So if you like stuff on coaching or culture, or if you'd love an action thriller read, actually a great way to describe it too is it's like an 80s action hero again. But even though it's happening now, because that, as everybody learned today, that was my largest influence. So I hope a lot of that came out in the book. And everything's on Amazon where you can check that out. And it would be really great if you did. And I'd love to hear what you think of it, because I'm always trying to get better.
Well, thank you, kind sir, for being with us. Martin Rooney, you are the real deal. So stick around, grab some food and drink in the backstage area of our non-existent green room. I'm going to talk to you here momentarily, so stick around. Name's Ron of Anti-Quote Channel. Don't forget to follow me across all forms of social media, simply at Anti-Quote Channel. We're on the road to 5,000. Once we do, we'll have a great big live stream that will include returning favorites and some special giveaways that you, the person who's watching or listening to this program right now, are going to be eligible to win. Guess what? We got merch that's on sale. Hoodies, T-shirts, stickers you can add to your water bottles when you go to the gym. Martin, you go to the gym, right? So get yourself some stickers, son. It's in our Redbubble store. Link is in the description below and on our social media bios. Also, my short story, Wolf of the West, got published from Veritas Entertainment. It's part of the Western Tales Volume 1 anthology, and this is a mock-up cover piece together. But if you're into Westerns, you want some really great stories by some up-and-coming rising star authors, check it out. Veritas Entertainment presents Western Tales Volume 1. Link is in my link tree down below. You can treat yourself to a copy there. It's available on Amazon through ebook, hardcover, or paperback. So treat yourself. You're going to like the way you look after reading or listening to that set of stories, however you want to go about it. I guarantee it. But do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when the videos go up or to go live. Remember, life is better when supporting creators from all over the world, because all you got to do, folks, is take a look. It's in a book.
A mission for the police. A mysterious passenger. Mitch Mayhew is carrying more than the mail this flight. Unwanted Passenger is a roaring, prop-spinning, pulse-pounding historical thriller for fans of aerial stunts, flapper-era intrigue, and reluctant heroes with debts to pay and demons to outrun. Order your copy of Unwanted Passenger today.
There it is. Luckily for you, you won't have to go through half of what I went through to get your copy. All you have to do is place an order. Treasure is My Trade is out now. Don't miss your chance.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.